Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. Today, I'm joined by Caitlin Rice. She is the Director of Marketing and Partnerships over at Taqtile. Caitlin, how's it going today?
Hey, Logan. It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You and I are talking about the new normal for our families, for work life these days. We're going to be talking about something that I think is obviously very timely for a lot of marketers out there, and that is marketing during a time of crisis. I was just listening to another podcast, the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast, talking about leadership during times of crisis. If anybody is not subscribed to that show and you want to check that out, you're a leader, would definitely encourage you to check out that show in the most recent episode. Today, we're going to be talking about striking the balance as marketers when the world shifts around us. Before we do that, Caitlin, as we always do, want to let you give some context to listeners. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in marketing, and what you and the Taqtile team are up to these days.
Yeah, sounds great. So again, I'm Caitlin Rice. I am with Taqtile. I'm our Director of Marketing and Partnerships. It's a really fun job. It's always interesting. And like you said, we're talking a lot about how to balance what we're doing now with what the world needs. High level, what Taqtile does is Taqtile is really coming in and changing the game when it comes to how frontline workers are capturing their skills and improving safety and achieving proficiency across industries. And so what that means is our main product, which is called Manifest, is an augmented reality SaaS product designed to enable subject matter experts, regardless of industry, to really capture their knowledge and share it in real world environments to enable any user to immediately attain that level of expertise. And so what that means is, if I'm an expert in water or wastewater and I'm an operator and I knew how to do my job exactly right, I can now put on, we're cross-device, so I can use any augmented reality device to capture that knowledge and then be used in training situations, be used in crisis situations, but also be used to upskill current employees. And, moving away from the 600-page manual and into real life, how do I use augmented reality, taking virtual reality, laying it over the real world, and use that to help my frontline workers move forward.
Very awesome. Very cool technology and somewhat timely right now as, teachers are working with students remotely doing Zoom calls.
100%.
And like you say, here are some of the industries that you serve where you guys have already been kind of enabling people to do training, to create resources so that there doesn't have to be in-person hands-on training, not necessarily always in time of a pandemic, but just for greater efficiency in that creation, in that training, in that upskilling of those workers. We're going to get into a little bit, as listeners can probably assume, you guys are trying to strike this balance of, hey, we have a solution that is probably even more important for a lot of folks given the current realities, but how do we not appear kind of opportunistic in our messaging? Talk to us a little bit, Caitlin, first about how you and your marketing team are feeling right now, because I think a lot of folks kind of feel this spotlight on marketing, I think is the way you put it the other day when you and I were chatting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're up against, right? This is sort of the spotlight on marketing. It's our time to shine. It's this new world of, a lot of our content and creation previously was focused on, okay, so what is our call to action? It's usually an in-person meeting. How do we make that impactful and people take that next step? That's not our call to action anymore, right? Nobody's going to be like, yeah, I'll show up. I can't go anywhere. Now, we have a little bit of a differentiator in that we are augmented reality. We can do different things in doing in-person or, live demos, and I can show up in your living room through augmented reality. And how do we capture that? But across marketing, it's this new idea of like, this is your time to shine. This isn't a time to shy away from what we're doing, but it's how can we do it in a way that's still impactful? Like you said, it's not, seeming opportunistic. It's not ambulance chasing, if you will. It's not pointing out of, you should have had this before, but it's how do we help businesses get through this and make it relatable and make it, that you're not just chasing the dollar, but chasing that relationship and continuation.
Yeah, absolutely. I was kind of polling, if you will, my LinkedIn network the other day, a couple of weeks ago, and said, how has your content strategy changed? It's, completely changed, and every piece of content you're putting out is related to this pandemic, or it's business as usual, or it's some kind of mix. And overwhelmingly, it was option C. It was that sort of mix. So we're going to dive into some of the ways that you guys are approaching your marketing with that mix. As we've said here a couple of times, I think the word is balance. How do you not sound like every other email that says how we're protecting you from
Right.
coronavirus, right? And you blend into the new noise, or at worst, you sound opportunistic. That's one side of it, right? And then the other side is you sound completely tone deaf if you do not revisit your messaging, especially in certain parts that are definitely heavily affected. We're not saying that you need to throw out all messaging. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you guys approached looking at your messaging top to bottom, and then we'll get into some specific examples on how you guys are striking that balance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it really took us, you have to take a step back and realize there was I think we all know it. We looked at our email boxes, and within, I would say, mid-March, 3 to 5 days in there, you're getting tons of emails. And, I know exactly how every person I've ever interacted with is handling safety for COVID. And that's great. But what you do is you just fall into that, like you said, you're going to get into the shuffle. Nobody's going to see you as different. And at the same time, highest risk is people start to go, now you're spam, block, block, block. I don't have time for this. And so one of the things you really have to balance is being aware that industries are struggling. Your messaging to each industry may have to be different. Like if you're messaging to healthcare right now, it's a totally different ballgame. Their need is very immediate. They have so much on their plates. And so we are shifting and balancing into how do we go from we're marketing a product. We know the product is helpful, but also meeting that human need, right? People want content that is relevant, and it may not be specific to your product, but how do you meet your customers where they're at, where they see you as a useful partner versus buy my product or don't talk to me, and it's this sort of balance of, we know there's this need. We know there's a human interest piece. Businesses want to know how other businesses are continuing. They want to know, what are you doing to help them flourish and business continuity, et cetera. And so, we're shifting. We have a lot of industries that are frontline workers. I mean, that's sort of the purpose of what we do. And so we have customers that can't stop. They can't work from home. Trust me, none of us want our wastewater treatment plant guys to say, I'm going to go work from home. We prefer that our toilets flush. And so how do we market to those that says, hey, we're here for you. And here's sort of the unsung heroes. And that's what we're sort of focusing on. How do we show how those businesses are continuing, and how do we market to that?
I love that. I love the idea of, I was just talking with a great marketer that's been on our network for a long time. And she said something that was then echoed by Dave Gerhardt on a tweet I saw last week, that was, you have an opportunity right now to build relationships with the content that you create for your audience. Maybe you create it with them. Maybe you interview the folks that are on the front lines of whatever industry that you serve. We think about healthcare, we think about frontline essential workers, but others that are going through massive turmoil right now, like hospitality and travel. And if you tell those stories and you put out content that is genuinely helpful for the situation they're in right now, you are going to establish a lot of goodwill that it may inevitably come back to your brand. But it takes that investment in the long game, as it always has with good content marketing. If you seek to serve in the short term, then you will see those long-term gains right now. But if you are always focused on, I have to do this to convert this, then you're never going to win. It's always that short term. So let's talk about some specific examples. Caitlin, you were mentioning to me some of the copy, some of the messaging that you guys were tweaking. Let's get real tactical for folks to give some specific examples. What were some of the things that you guys revisited, maybe where you saw, maybe not that, and what you landed on in some specific examples here?
Yeah. So, we've done some brainstorming internally, like how do we meet this need for our clients and also, get our point across. And again, that balance, not opportunistic, but relevant, not, overbearing, but helpful. And like you said, it may not be a short-term gain. It may not be a short-term conversion, but it's going to be that long-term relationship we're pushing. And so one of the things we're really throwing around, again, that unsung hero, how do we tell their story? Maybe not specifically how they're using Manifest, but how are they moving through this process? And that sort of can come around to that. And so we've been throwing around some email ideas. And one of the things we have to be just really cautious of, I think, as marketers, is one of our ideas that we just sort of had thrown around is, hey, your workers may not be at work, but now you have the time to sort of capture this info before they go back to to work. And there is benefit to that because of what Manifest does. You can do a lot of content creation now, you can do a lot of authoring of these jobs, but you really don't want to put a message out there that says, so when you're back to work, because I think that's a sore spot right now, right? Who knows what that looks like? A lot of these organizations don't know what tonight at 4 p.m. looks like, let alone 2 weeks from now. And so you want to hit that, yeah, you have this time, but maybe, we're smoothing out the message of when you're back to work, but how do you work today, right? And so that way you're not focusing on what's unknown, but how do you make the most of it? And that's one of the great things of Manifest is it's connecting those two items of being at work, being at home. How do you connect those workers, this connected workforce? Manifest really plays that up, but it's doing it in a way that's not pointing out layoffs and all these other things that people are really heavy of mind, but instead focusing it on how do you make the most of where your team is at right now?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes back to good marketing, right? It's not just about what you're saying. It's, okay, if I heard this right now, what other things are going to come to mind,
100%.
right? Return to work. Am I going to return to work? Okay, now we need to tweak that messaging, right? But if you don't take that step, then you could have some unintended consequences with the way your copy is.
100%. And we have these situations where people are at home, and one of the big selling points in what we do and what we market to is a lot of that pushback may come from, well, we don't have time to do this right now. We're all up against it. We're working in digital transformation, which is a buzzword, but how do we bring that digital transformation to frontline workers? But how do we do that in a way now where it's really about skills development? It's about meeting that need. It's about meeting needs when shifts are now broken up. Maybe I have an experience where they have broken up shifts where certain people are working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somebody's working Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But what if your expert worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the person that needs them is working Thursday, Friday, Saturday? How do you make that connected workforce? And that's what Manifest does, but not marketing to a way that says when you return to work or you have all this time on your hands, you really don't want to point out these sort of touch points of, oh yeah, that hurts.
Today's growth story is about Sumo Logic, a cloud-based log management and security analytics company whose platform makes tracking log data across various platforms and integrations a breeze. And when Sumo Logic needed to raise brand awareness across sub-industries, they turned to Directive. Directive took on the task of elevating Sumo Logic's enterprise and mid-market brand awareness and making the brand connections with other applications they needed. The brand trust Directive built drew scores of new customers to purchase Sumo Logic products with confidence. In just one quarter, Directive's content strategy increased impressions by almost 40%. And year-over-year keyword rankings in those coveted top 3 spots went up by a whopping 175%. All thanks to Directive's content strategy efforts. And if you want to learn how to drive these types of results for your clients, you need to check out Directive's Digital Marketing Course Institute. Step by step, click by click, Institute teaches you all of the skills you need to launch your own successful digital marketing campaigns. Sign up today at directiveconsulting.com/institute and get your first 4 lessons on us. Once again, that's directiveconsulting.com/institute to get 4 free lessons from the pros. All right, let's get back to the show.
So that's a really good example of your email copy. When you and I were talking the other day, Caitlin, you mentioned some content that you guys are putting out as you started to think through what is the new reality for the people that we serve. And that led you guys to creating some content that was maybe, as opposed to one layer removed, just right tangential from where your product serves, a couple layers removed. Can you talk about that and maybe the lesson learned that folks who are marketing to other segments of the population right now, how they might be able to apply that same methodology?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking, so we're having some internal conversations of how do we equip our partners who are meeting that next level with their businesses. And so how do we enable them with our information? And it's a whole different marketing message, right? Like, we're here for you who's meeting that customer need, and it's a business to business through business. And so we're really formulating our messaging to them and using this time to help build them up, to build their teams up, to do that in a way that they're able to meet their customers' needs. And whether that's next week or a month from now, are they equipped to go do what they need to do? And so that partner enablement has been a real focus of ours during this time as well, as how do we market to them? How do we meet their need? Which, you and I both know is a little bit different than business to business, but it's still content that's needed. It's still direct, conversations, but it takes the focus off of like they're right in front of you business to how do you meet sort of a broader scale.
Yeah. And you guys have even gone very tactical with some of your content, thinking about, okay, the software that we provide is usually used on specific devices, either,
Yeah.
VR headsets or tablets, these sorts of things. And so now what are people thinking about with passing around these devices that are touched by a lot of people, much like grocery carts right now? And tell us a little bit
Right.
about kind of where you got there and how you struck that balance in addressing some of that with your content.
Yeah, and so I think this really meets that need again of I don't have to market specifically to my product right now. What I do is need to provide tangible content that makes a business impact. People are thinking about the safety of their employees. And part of what our product is, it's run on augmented reality headsets. And there's a couple of different examples there, but it also can run on tablets. How do you make those and sanitize those safely for your teams that are using them? And so while I don't create this headsets, I have customers that use those every day. And so that is a huge piece of being able to connect with them, give them something useful and something they can tangibly use right now. And so we created, process to sanitize your whatever you're using across that, again, headset, handheld device, whatever it may be. And it's a real use case. It's a real touch point that makes it tangible. And I think, providing that, they may not go, oh, that's immediately tied to manifest. But what it does is allows them to go, hey, in this time of need, they provided me something that was useful that I didn't have to go research somewhere else. It's all in one document. I was able to use it with my teams. I was able to set protocols because they had this info at their fingertips.
Yeah, I love that. Again, it just comes back to really good content marketing. We've just got to be extra empathetic, extra thoughtful right now, because the consequences of the way that it's going to be received, the way that it's going to legitimately impact people. We have jobs as marketers to serve, not just to convert and drive revenue for our organizations. You've got to be doing both. Again, we come back to balance. I think that's the word of the day, right?
And when you come back to the spotlights on marketing right now, and how are you going about it? And are you meeting the customer's need, or are you sort of just spinning with the same message that everybody else is putting out there? And there's nothing wrong. I mean, COVID is top of mind, but I think when we think about marketing and that balance, we need to think people don't want to see that in every message they see. I mean, it's a heavy topic. It's a lot of info coming at them from many different places right now. And so how do you take that and make real content they can use in this, which is not just, hey, this is how we're taking care of you, but here's how you can meet your need right now. And how can we help you address that? And it's the spotlight on that. And how does that, how are you meeting your customers' needs through that?
Yeah, I saw a post from Jay Acunzo last night on Instagram talking about we need to show and not tell our customers that we care. If you're sending out an email that says, we care, we're here to help you, and then there's nothing there, like just skip that. Just go straight to what you can provide. Don't talk about it. Don't bury the lead, as they say in journalism. Sorry, my J school background is coming out here. Don't bury that lead. Just deliver it, right? And let the helpful content, the helpful actions that your team is taking, let them speak for themselves and let people infer that.
Yeah. And if you have a product that meets a tangible need right now, and there's tons of products out there that do, and you've seen, there's a lot of products that are getting a lot of uplift right now because they're like, man, this is meeting needs. It's meeting the, conferencing needs, all these other things. But if you have a product that meets these needs, don't just go out there and say, hey, look, you should have bought this 3 months ago. Here we are now. You would have been better off. But just be there for your clients, be there for potential clients and saying, we can help you now. And when you're ready, we're here. And here's how we can do it. And in the meantime, here's some other helpful content that's going to help you. And really take advantage of the mediums that people are used to sort of engaging in within marketing right now. It's short videos. And that's where we're focusing on, because people, we all know it. We watch Facebook videos just because they come up and you're like, oh, that's fascinating. But meet that need, meet where people are at, but do it in a way that's not just another burden on their lap or another spam thing that they go ignore.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you say that. That's been a big part of our strategy here lately. Everybody knows here at Sweetfish, we're all about podcasting all the time. But even before things have just shifted underneath our feet over the last month or so, we've been leaning into short form video to connect social to podcasting. I see a lot of people that, do audiograms, or they try and just do the audio only clips. But there's a difference, right? I mean, just to kind of get tactical in what you're saying here in your content strategy, when people are on social, they're in active consumption mode, right? So text, video, but keep it short. Like if I'm scrolling LinkedIn, I don't want to watch a 30-minute interview, but if I see that and I see oh, this is about a podcast that I could subscribe to. And when I'm in kind of that passive long form consumption mode, then I can go there. So that, I think that applies to no matter what market you serve and what channels you're using.
Exactly. No matter which market you're in, that's, and don't post 12 paragraphs about how you can help somebody. Make it very easy, people are in consumption mode, but make it easy for them to consume. Otherwise they will keep scrolling. And, that's the cool thing about what we do too, is some of the videos we can put out. It's very, wow, that's interesting. Let me dig in deeper. And so we're trying to sort of touch on that point too, but in a helpful way, right?
Yep, absolutely. So I think the encouragement for marketers here is that we do need to be extra sensitive. We do need to be as empathetic as possible, but those are core to being a good marketer anyway. So now is a time to really sharpen your skills to serve your community even better when they are in very stressful situations, whether they're a frontline worker or, they're like you and I, we're just marketers who are dealing with some interesting things, but you never know what their spouse or their significant other, their kids, their relatives are dealing with. Now is a time to serve. And I think it goes back to, that podcast episode that I mentioned. I definitely encourage people to check out the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. That episode was called Leadership Through Crisis. And one of the things he talked about was, crisis and challenges pose, unforeseen obstacles, but they also present unprecedented opportunities. Again, not to be opportunistic, and not every one of those opportunities is simply financially or revenue motivated. But for those of us, it's not a time to shrink back and, we're not going to market, we're not going to put out content. We need to just adjust it for the times and really focus with that servant mentality. And I think we'll be better served and we'll serve our audiences better. Caitlin, I feel like you and I could talk all day. For the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up today. For folks who have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, what's the best way for them to stay connected with you or learn more about what you and the team at Taqtile are up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Caitlin with a C, Rice on LinkedIn, and I'm with Taqtile, and Taqtile's with a Q. So taqtilewithaq.com. And we're also on LinkedIn and Twitter, but would love to hear from you. If you want more info or want to talk about some out-of-the-box ideas, also can reach out to info@taqtile.com.
I love it. Caitlin, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No problem. Thanks, Logan.
I hate it when podcasts incessantly ask their listeners for reviews, but I get why they do it, because reviews are enormously helpful when you're trying to grow a podcast audience. So here's what we decided to do. If you leave a review for B2B Growth in Apple Podcasts and email me a screenshot of the review to james@sweetfishmedia.com, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book, Content-Based Networking, How to Instantly Connect with Anyone You Want to Know. We get a review, you get a free book. We both win.